Hey there, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to share a little bit about the Little School of Big Change here in this live Q&A session. And as you come on, if you have questions about anything, just go ahead and post them in the comments there, and I will speak to them. So, just to kind of kick us off, I'll just say a little bit about what the school helps, like who it's for, what it does for people, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the structure and how it all works. So, the understanding that I share in the Little School of Big Change is kind of loosely, maybe more than loosely, but based around my book, The Little Book of Big Change, uh, which is a no willpower approach to breaking any habit, including mental habits. So lots of people come into the school with physical ish habits, things like substance related stuff, overeating, over drinking, things like shopping and gambling, um, sometimes cutting, skin picking. There's all kinds of things, right? All kinds of different habits that we have in that way. Uh, but also a lot of mental habits and what you might call like a physical habit or a feeling habit that aren't really what we typically think of when we think of habits. Um, but the reason that this understanding speaks to all of that is because it goes so much deeper than what it is we're doing. And and why I think so many people fall short in their own change efforts is not at all because they are weak or they're not trying hard enough or anything about them. And of course that's what we tell ourselves, right? I didn't have enough willpower, I didn't do it right, I'm too weak, I this habit's bigger than me. None of those are true ever. I don't think it's ever the case. None of those are true. It's that we're it's that we're pointed in a place that is not a helpful place to look. So we're pointed toward what it is we're doing in the case of a doing habit. So for me with my binge eating, it was like, wow, you do this thing, you feel this way, and then you go eat all this food and let's focus there and let's try to change your behavior. In the case of a feeling or thought habit, we're looking straight at, we're pointed straight at our thoughts and our feelings and how this stuff is showing up in us. And while that makes perfect logical sense in a way, like where else are we going to look, right? If you're smoking or drinking, of course you're going to look at the smoking and drinking because that's the problem. Even with anxiety and worry, you're going to look at your thoughts and how your mind's working because that looks like the problem that's causing your suffering. So, of course we're going to look there to some degree, but when we only look there, what happens? We are swimming in experience that looks problematic, looks personal, looks meaningful, and that we don't know how to do anything about. It looks like something that we have to change or fix or manipulate or step in and navigate or maneuver in some way. And it's not truly like that. That's what leads to very short term, very effortful kind of change attempts that just don't last very long, and they sure as heck don't go very deep. So where we look in the school, and again why the school is full of people with everything from health anxiety to a variety of habits and addictions to mood issues to uncertainty and problems making decisions and all kinds of stuff, and why it helps all of those people is that we're looking so much deeper at how the thing, whatever the thing is for each of us, shows up in life. And we're looking at how all of our experience works, how all thought and feeling that's behind everything we do, how all thought and feeling works, what it's showing us, how it operates, all of it, no exceptions, and even bigger, who we all are beyond all of that experience. So rather than getting so caught up in I do this and I want to stop, or I think this and it hurts and I want it to go away, we acknowledge that, of course. That's the tip of the iceberg, right? That's the part that is surfaced. That's the part that we feel in our experience, and we've been kind of conditioned to just look at that level of things. So we acknowledge it, of course, but then we look deeper. We look at how for every single one of us, our experience looks unique and special and scary and bigger than us. And it just isn't the case. We look at what we all have in common, what all thought and feeling have in common, what drives all behavior, all of it, no exceptions. And we come to see it in a way where it starts to feel, first of all, not so mysterious, not so personal, not so like I can't believe I think this, or I why are these thoughts happening to me, or why do I keep doing this thing when I know better. That's all the surface level, right? That's what we've all been saying forever. Me too, forever. But we go beyond that because that's what everybody says. That's the irony, right? We're all saying, why me, why me, and it's not just me, it's all of us. So as we start to see, oh, that's just how minds work. That's how all experience shows up for people in its own way. Like, what does it all have in common? We get deeper. We cut through all that personal, meaningful, scary, mysterious stuff. It starts to make sense. It starts to look like something that is not us. It starts to look like something that shows up and moves through us, but that doesn't have to hijack us. It doesn't have to grab us and pull us along for the ride. We start to feel some space between our experience, meaning we start to notice our mind racing because minds like to race, notice our feelings going all over because our feelings just are the same thing as our mind racing. It's just the felt portion of that. Notice an urge to do some habit. Notice a desire to yell at your kids or lose your temper or whatever it might be. But we notice it. We have some space because most of us, most of the time, don't have any space. And that's the problem. We're like this with our experience. And so when something comes up that says, eat that, we're like, okay. Something comes up that says, you're a jerk. We're like, yep, you're right. There's no space there. But as that space grows, oh my gosh, like as that space grows, everything starts to change. Everything feels more open and looser and less like something we need to respect or pay attention to. And then we're also seeing, oh yeah, everyone else has similar thoughts and feelings. And we know we don't have to pay attention to it and it's not personal. And in that, our experience kind of becomes out here a little bit, and we get to feel what doesn't always change. We get to feel into who we really are and all the good that's there. So it's an amazing exploration, and it's a very, very consistent one. Consistent doesn't feel like the right word, but it's very predictable. Every single time I lead this course, and I don't even know how many times this is, maybe 8 or 9, uh, a new group of a couple hundred people come in, and I always tell Amanda and my other coaches in there, like, what if they're the one group that doesn't get it? And she just laughs at me and says, you say that every time. And every single time we're texting each other, talking throughout the course, like, wow, can you believe what's happening for these people? Like, can you believe so and so? They're popping like crazy, and this person and that person. And it all happens at our own pace and our own timing. It's not about comparing or anything like that. But when I say it's consistent and predictable, I just think it's really important because, again, all of us just sitting at home are in our own heads. Like, we are the center of our own universe. Doesn't mean we're selfish. It means we're human beings. That's how we work. Our mind is constantly talking about us and us versus them. So to kind of see, this isn't about you. It doesn't matter. It matters in your life, but it doesn't matter as far as the course or as far as I'm concerned, like what you're struggling with. This is not about you and your issues. This is about what we all have in common. And time and time and time again, when we look there, amazing things start to open up and people wake up to who they really are beyond that experience. And it is so predictable and consistent. And that's what makes it so exciting and also nerve-wracking, but I know better. My mind will say, what if this class is different? And it's never different. It can't be different because, again, it doesn't have anything to do with me. It doesn't have anything to do with you. It's how we work. It's human beings looking in a direction of what's true and how we work. And this is just what happens when we do that. So it's really amazing in that way. So again, if you're just joining in, Please share any questions you have. Um, oh, it's so good to see people here. Um, please share any questions you have on the side here, and I'll address them kind of as I talk about some of this other stuff. Philip says, do these thoughts diminish in time as we go deeper? It's so interesting. It's a great question. It's so interesting. Yes, and sometimes maybe no. But it's not about, see, they do diminish in time, because think of it this way. Our mind is very habitual, and it we have these, like, I won't get into all the brain stuff, but it's very habitual, and it's like our attention and our fear and what we put meaning on is almost like super glue, so it like brings to life what we're thinking about. That's why so often we feel like we're in a rut where we're just thinking about the same stuff over and over, because when that shows up, it's like, oh yeah, I know you're familiar, even if it's painful, even when we call them intrusive thoughts and we hate it, or it's anxious thoughts or whatever, or urges or whatever it might be, even when it's painful, it's familiar, and we pay attention to it, and we kind of treat it as if it's true, so it kind of keeps coming back. So when we see all of this in a new light, when we see that our thinking is not the truth, thought is not the truth, when we really kind of come to see that, and we really see who we are and what's there, the kind of guidance we all have beyond how our moment to moment thinking works, we just see it differently. And then the thoughts come up, and you're like, oh, you, rather than, oh, yeah, you, I know you. It's like, oh, you again. And we stop paying attention so much. And when we stop paying attention, our mind stops bringing it back. So, in that sense, yes, things absolutely start to diminish. But in another sense, whether or not they diminish starts to be far less important. So all the time, and I love this so much, all the time I hear people talking about, yeah, I had that old thought again, but it had no power anymore. Like, how amazing is that? Yeah, and this, for me too, for many people with habits, for years, my mind still talked about doing my habit. For years. But I kind of liked it because it didn't have that same power. It wasn't talking about it like, eat this, and I'd say, okay, like it was when I was caught up in my habit. It would be like, oh, no one's home. Maybe you should go ahead and eat that. And I would say, that's crazy. Why would I do that? So with that space, it doesn't matter if it diminishes or not. In fact, I would always sort of like this because it would just remind me of how much had changed. So, yes and no. It's a great question. Okay, so what else can I tell you? So let me tell you a little bit about the nuts and bolts of how the course works, because I know there's a lot of questions about that. And then, if you have any questions, again, higher level or more specific, put them in, and I'll go back and speak to more of what's there. So the course is a 6-week course that has a core and advanced curriculum, meaning I took 6 months off a few years ago and just designed this curriculum kind of similar to how I would if I was writing a book. It was very step by step. It starts from the assumption that you know nothing about this understanding, which is a great place to start. Even if you know a lot about this understanding, I encourage all of the new students to just be a baby, like be a newbie coming into this, because you will get so much more that way. So it speaks to everyone as if we're brand new, and through a series of short lessons, conversations, questions, prompts, all of that, we start to just get curious. Like, what if you are full of mental health? You are totally anxiety free, totally habit and addiction free. What if who you are is everything you've always been looking for, and it just gets thought over? Meaning our mind just thinks all the time, talks all the time, and because this is so steady and quiet, we get kind of used to it. And this is so dramatic and emotional and all over the place. We get a little alert up here, and before we know it, we're up here way more than we need to be, and we've forgotten about this. So we look at that. I mean, we walk through this video by video, and so there's a whole core curriculum. It gets deeper and broader as we go, but it starts in a really great place, and a whole advanced curriculum These videos have been tested and tweaked and changed and improved after so many people have gone through the school based on feedback and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a great, really solid curriculum that we know leads to change and insight for a lot of people, and you get to keep it for life. So that part is very important to me because, we this is big stuff, and we go through and we hear what we're able to hear, but then as we see more and hear more, what we're able to hear expands. We just hear things in a brand new way as we see more. So it's always been really important to give you all of the content to keep for life. And a lot of people, maybe a majority of people, tell me they either come back through the course, which you can always do at any time at a really large discount, or they just listen to the content on their own and they say things like, whoa, it's really different. Like I'm hearing things I didn't at all hear the first time through or the second or third time through. So that's really amazing, so you get to keep that. So each week of the 6 weeks, about an hour's worth of content is opened up. So everyone's kind of walked through everything together. So you watch your first hour. We have a forum, a private forum, not on Facebook. You don't have to have anything to do with Facebook to be in this course, which I'm very, very happy about. So it's a totally private forum. There's myself and two other coaches, Amanda and Jessica, are in there supporting people all the time. Like I live in there for 6 weeks. We're there all the time. And so you watch your videos, you come to the forum if you want to, and you can share what you're seeing. You can ask questions. You can reach out for support. Anything is available to you there. I mean, you can bring up anything and you get really, really good personal support there. And then what my favorite part of the course, where it gets really good, is we have 2 group calls each week. So 2 90-minute calls. So it's 3 hours with me each week. Now, everything is recorded, so you don't have to make those live. Most people don't make every single group call live. Some do. But you'll have all the recordings of all of that. And again, you can keep those forever. But in those 3 hours each week when we're talking, that's where I get to go deeper into the content that was shared for that week, into the lessons. It's also where I just coach as many people as we can fit in. And that is, I believe, the most helpful thing about this course is that you're there with whatever looks personal, to you, whatever it looks like your problem. And you're seeing people from all over the world being coached through their own version of the same thing. And when we see this over and over, what starts to happen is you just can't deny the fact that we're all the same. Like you start seeing someone's health before they see it, but you're getting to know these people, you're seeing them being coached, and you're seeing like, oh, well, that's not you, or you don't have to listen to that. Like, however it looks, like you see this in others. And by extension, you start to absolutely deeply know it and see it for yourself. So no doubt about it, those calls where we're really going deep into the concepts, and where I'm answering questions and mostly doing a lot of coaching are incredible. And I mean that again, not because you can get coached, although you can, because just watching other people being supported does so much for us, because we're all the same. You will recognize yourself and you will be coached in every single exchange and conversation that you see, because you are them and they are you. We are so much more alike than we even realize. So on that piece about you being coached, quite a few people go through the school each time, and a lot of them never speak up for coaching on a call. They still get so much out of it. But if you want to, you will, in this course, you will have all your questions answered. If you have an issue that you want to talk to me around, it will happen. So that's not something that is common in a lot of group courses, especially group courses that have, upwards of 150 people. But it is in this one without question. And I don't mean like eventually over the 6 weeks. I mean like the week you ask a question or need coaching, you're going to get it. So on the group calls, you raise your hand. I take people in the order that hands go up. We do that 2 times for 90 minutes each week. We also take questions and coaching on the forum. And if there's leftover stuff that we didn't get to live in those calls, I make videos. So I spend a lot of my Friday usually making videos that speak really directly to every single thing that's asked. So I just want you to get a feel that I know that's a lot when it's out of context and it makes sense once you're in there. It's really simple, but I just want you to kind of get the idea that this is not like a do-it-yourself course at all. You have me, I've been coaching forever. You have two of my best, most amazing certified change coaches in there supporting you all the way through. So it's coaching. It's not just a do-it-yourself, watch these videos kind of course. So what else? That's the basics of how the 6 week course runs. I don't want to get into this too much, but just because people ask a lot, when the 6 weeks are over, we do have a graduate community. So just to put minds at ease now, a lot happens in 6 weeks. A lot starts to shift and change and shake up for people. Many people will be free of whatever they came in with. Many people won't, but they will say, wow, I see life differently. And I know that my issue, my habit, whatever is not here to stay. It's not like it looked 6 weeks ago. And so after the 6 week course ends, we have the option of joining our graduate community. We have an amazing, amazing, close, supportive graduate community. We have calls every single week. We have a separate private forum that's very active. And we actually, starting today, we just started a new option for personal support in the graduate community, where each week we're going to have these office hours where, in addition to the calls that I lead, there's an opportunity to pop in and have a coach there that will do a coaching session with you. So you get, basically, for $39 a month, you get private coaching, which is pretty incredible. So anyway, I won't talk about that a lot now because that's down the road. But, people wonder because they think, I never thought they did, but I'm hearing more and more feedback about this, that they're already sort of thinking ahead sometimes, like, oh, a 6 week course sounds great, but then what? And I just want to let you know there's a really great, very, very helpful, supportive then what that comes at the end. Okay, so let me see if there are any other questions. If you have any, go ahead. Oh, I love all the students, current and past, saying hi and speaking up. Let's see. So Michelle says, what if you know you're just thinking bad thoughts and you realize that, but still have a horrible bad habit of thinking them and keep having them all? Yeah, that's it. That's anxiety. That's what happens. But I want you to see in this, Michelle, it's not like you have a bad habit of thinking all these thoughts. Like, you don't wake up in the morning and say, what kind of crappy stuff can I think about today? You aren't doing that. You're not doing it. Your mind has this habit, right? So it's less about you. It's less about you doing something wrong or you having this habit. None of us have a habit. Our mind is habitual, and it will find topics and themes and things to spin on, because that's just, when we talk so much about this, you come to see, oh, that's just what a mind does. It's not personal, it's not broken, it's just what a mind does. So as you come to see that, it's like, oh, well, that's nothing to be so worried about, which is pretty amazing. But you don't have this habit. Your mind is just in a loop. Now, like I was saying earlier, when every time our mind brings up the same topics and we say, oh no, there it is again, it's all about me, why is this happening, what's wrong with me, is it true, when we go into that, we suffer so much. And we not only suffer so much, we pay so much attention to it, and it feeds it. And it's not that, again, I don't want to scare you, this is all very, very changeable. But it's like we're pulling it in and looking at it, and it's real and it's true and it's me and mine and all of that. And it's kind of a disaster, and that just sort of keeps it going. Now, where this is different is we come to deeply, insightfully see that what our mind is just habitually talking about doesn't have anything to do with us. It's not true. Now, it sounds like it is because it'll talk about you and your life, right? So it might say, "Oh, this horrible thing's going to happen," or "Look out for that," or whatever. And it uses, it's our mind telling us a story. It uses our real life and our details, and it's all about you and in your surroundings and your circumstances and the people you love the most. So it sure as heck feels like it's real. It feels like it's true, but it isn't. And when we come to see that, when oh, there goes my mind in that circle again, same old stuff, it's always saying, nothing I need to worry about. There's nothing in there for me to do. There's nothing for me to stop. There's nothing for me to pay attention to. It's a machine over here just doing what a machine does. Enormous freedom, Michelle. Enormous freedom comes from that, because now we're back here seeing it. It's like I was saying about my binge eating habit. When my mind comes in and tells me to do it, but I know better, there's no problem there. In fact, it's kind of amusing. And that's how it can be. That's how it is for many, many people with any type of thoughts. All thought is the same. It'll feel like it's not. It feels different. The storyline is different. The details are different, but it's all thought. It's like saying, oh no, rain is very different from snow. Well, when you're at that level of how frozen is it, how solid is it, yeah, we can make a case for them being very separate. But when you back up a bit and you see, oh, it's all weather, it's all precipitation, it's all water in a different form, you start to see, oh, it's all the same. And that's where we look in the school. That's what this whole thing is about. It's about what I call zooming out. Or we talk about jumping up in a spaceship and looking down. From up in a spaceship, it's all the same. And there's just nothing to get so wrapped up and worried and scared of. So those are just my words. But when we see that deeply ourselves, and people do, because we're designed to see it that way, when we see that deeply ourselves, that's when it changes. It's not my words right now that are going to change it for you. It's you opening up to this and coming to see that in a really deep way, in where you know that it's the truth. Okay, so go ahead, and again, any questions? I'm going to say a little bit more about some questions I sometimes get about the school. So Philip's saying, how do you deal with something tragic happening in that moment? Um, I don't know. You you don't have to worry about that. Like, this is a little bit outside of well, it's a little bigger maybe conversation, but it it's not about our brain, our minds learning how to deal with things that haven't yet happened. It's more about seeing that we all are designed with an innate, built in, can't go anywhere system, a design that where life is living us, and we see things in the moment when we need to see them. I mean, we've all had this experience of we don't know, and then suddenly we know. Or something happens, an emergency happens, and we're just acting. We don't think about what to do, we're just doing it. And so those are just some examples. Like, there's such a system behind all of this, and we tend to kind of ignore that because, again, it's invisible. It comes up and we see it, but we're so used to being in our heads and thinking our way through and making plans and having strategies that we miss the fact that life lives us. And in this course, we start looking there, because when we look at how all of this is working perfectly already, how everything's moving through us, and so much is working in our favor that we've just been blind to, you start feeling it and noticing it, and things really, really start to change. Just by, again, nothing has actually changed. We're just aware of how good things already are. It's really amazing. It's really awesome, actually. I'm not teaching anything new. I'm just pointing us all back toward what we all already know, and what has always been there and always been working for us forever, but we didn't know. And when we don't know that we're so healthy and that things are working so perfectly, we get really worried about thoughts and details and what might happen and all that good stuff. Okay. So, so people have asked about the time commitment. Like I mentioned, we have two 90-minute calls each week. So There's 3 hours worth of calls. It's wonderful to be on those live as much as you possibly can, but many people can't be on them live. There's people from 40, we'll see after this week, but 44 countries that I know of, it'll go up, uh, who have been through the school, many time zones. So people just can't do everything live, but that's why, again, everything is recorded. And how it works is if you can't make a call live, you can post a question on the forum, and I speak to those questions on the live calls and on my videos. So again, something's on your mind, I will speak. I won't just write you a comment on the forum. Like, I will actually speak to it and elaborate and all of that, whether you're there or not. So it's a really great setup in that way. Sometimes people, so let me finish the time commitment. So there's about an hour of content each week, and then those 3 hour calls, 3 hours of calls. Which again, you could, sometimes we have a busy week and you're catching up on last week. It's fine. It's not a big deal. It's all meant to be very flexible. Other times you're just right on top of it. It's all good either way. And yeah, that's the time commitment. The forum, some people spend a lot of time on the forum because they love it. Other people almost never go there. The forum is really supplementary. It's not something that's like the core of the course that you have to be on the forum all the time. So if you're already like I am, like constantly online, and you don't want to be on a forum, if you just don't want to because it's for whatever reason, you don't have to. That part is just kind of the icing on the cake. Sometimes people feel that they really want to go through the course because they know everything that could open up and change for them, but like it's a busy time, for example, and they think, oh, I'll just wait and do the next one, which you totally can, right? I lead this course twice a year, only twice a year. I'm pretty sure that'll be the case. Yeah, I'm questioning it because I have a new book coming out, and we might do something different around the book, but I'll almost 100% lead this course in the spring. So you could wait 6 months, and you know what's best for you. If that feels best, do it. But what I often tell people is, hey, if you're feeling like the need for some of this now, but it just happens to not be the best time, you don't have to wait. What you can do is go through it now, get as much as you can by just doing it in a really flexible way on your own time schedule. Again, even if you don't get through it all in the 6 weeks, you have this for life. So that means over December and January and February, you could be listening to this on your commute. You could be immersing in it really all that time and beyond. And then you can go through the course maybe when it's a better time in 6 months. Now, you will have already gotten so much. I'm not even kidding. Like, so much will be looking different to you. So much will open up and be changing already, even if you're just doing it halfway. I really mean that. This is not a course about putting in time and being on top of it. In fact, in the first video, I tell people, don't take notes. Don't make this hard. It's not that kind of thing. So you will have gotten so much by just doing it however you can do it. And then you can go through the course when you maybe have more time in the spring or whenever the next time is, at a drastically reduced price. So it's very inexpensive to go through it. Once you've been through it once, people go through it multiple times later. Okay. Kelly says, how can you stop impulsive behavior? So the way that we look at this is, I don't know if you were out in the beginning, but if not, check it out because I talked a lot about this actually in the very beginning of the live. But it's not about like, oh, I have this problem behavior and I have to stop it. It's more about having some space between us, who we really are, and our experience. So all impulsive behavior is a thought that comes up that has a bunch of feeling attached that tells you to do something, right? Do this, eat this, drink that, buy this, whatever it is, right? And it has a feeling, right? If you suffer with this, like it has a feeling attached, and we feel hijacked by it and thrown around by it and powerless to it at times. But this understanding is the absolute best thing I have ever in my personal and professional life seen for this type of thing, because it's not about not doing the behavior. If you could just not do the behavior, focus on the behavior and not do that, we'd all be free, right? It's not about that. It's about letting life move through you the way that life is moving through you, because what choice do we have? And seeing that it's not the boss of you, like having thoughts show up and seeing it because we've had some distance. And again, I went into a lot of detail about it in the beginning, so definitely check that out. But as we relax into who we really are, and as we see that minds just do what minds do, that every thought and behavior and urge is not a directive for you. It is not something you need to follow. It's not like wisdom in disguise. It's not like trying to tell you something. It's just a machine doing what a machine does, you know? And so your machine, your brain will come up and tell you, do this, do this, do this over and over again. But the more we come to see, oh, everybody's machine has their own version of that. This is just the way a machine works. It starts to look like it's out here. It just starts to look like, oh, okay, well, I don't need to listen to that. And again, I'm not, it's so hard to say, just, these are just my words pointing to something that we each have to feel. We each have to come to know this as a truth, and you will, because we're designed to come to know it as a truth. It's not that hard. It's truly not. So as we see our experience as something we don't have to fear, then it just moves through us. Then your brain, for a while, because it has the habit, still says, do this, do this, do this, whatever your impulsive thing is, but it just doesn't have the power over you anymore. And it just flows through, and eventually it stops happening. And I've experienced it with many, many things myself, and I've seen it with literally thousands of people. I mean, with the behavior doesn't matter. It can be an impulsive behavior around anything. It can be a repetitive thought. It can be a feeling thing that comes up, like a feeling of sadness or a feeling of pressure or anxiety or whatever. It doesn't matter, because it's all the same thing. It's all experience, and it's not us. And when we see how it works, there's just so much freedom there. I hope that's helpful. All right. Well, let me know what other questions you have. Again, they can be high level. I love those, or they can be more tactical. Keep in mind that enrollment for this course of the Little School of Big Change, which won't happen again until the spring of 2021 at the absolute earliest, closes tomorrow. So closes Thursday, October 1st, tomorrow at midnight Eastern time. So after that, to be honest, even though I love doing like this kind of thing, I really love to just get in there and support people. So at this point, when I've been out talking about the school like crazy for at least the last 3-4 weeks a lot. I can't wait until midnight tomorrow. I'm not a salesperson. I enjoy the conversations. I enjoy the questions, but I just want to get in there and just start focusing on the people. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to midnight tomorrow, and that's the reason too that we're pretty strict about the deadline, because I don't have time to do this and support people at the level of support that we offer. So that's when it closes. And a couple questions people had around the state of the world, I guess is a good way to say it, like about going through it now with COVID happening, with, depending on where you live, natural disasters and elections and just all kinds of stuff, social injustice, like there's a lot happening. And I cannot, now obviously I'm going to say this, but I promise you, man, it's so true. I cannot imagine a better time to be in a community that you don't need to leave your house for, you don't need to put on a mask for, where you are around people who are looking toward how change works, how we navigate change, how resilient and healthy we are. I mean, this course was designed for right now, honestly. And the community and the support is unparalleled. So in the spring course, we started I think we started the first week of March. So about within 2 weeks, everything was up in the air. And I loved that course and that group so much, because so many of those people needed this so much and got, I mean, just beyond what I ever could have thought. And it's interesting because when everything happened, everything went into lockdown, all the conversation had shifted. a lot of people ask, like, how's your class doing? How's the school doing? Because people came in to see about an understanding and to be free of a habit or whatever. And now everything's kind of up in the air. Like, are they able to kind of look toward what you're trying to point them toward? And I sort of wondered too, how is this going to go? And I can't even say enough how amazingly it went, because we had this real life stuff to look at. Like, we had the most real, true, examples and real issues. Even the people who never felt anxiety or never worried about their health or anything, they were there for something else, now had all these, no, now everyone just felt so connected, and we could see ourselves in each other, and so much real time stuff was coming up to look at. And with every person that volunteers, every person that raises their hand and shares and gets coached, it just helps every single one of us. Because even if your thing, whatever your thing is relatively unique within the course, we all know. Like, we all know, whether you have anxiety or depression or an addiction or a habit, we all know what it feels like to be caught up, to know that there's more to life, to feel lost. Like, and so it's just as amazing. I mean, I don't want a lot of stuff going on, but when people are open and we're just dealing with life, it makes the class so much richer. And there are some videos here on my Facebook page that show some of the comments that people had, because they called this class, called themselves the COVID class, and they really just bonded. Many of them are in the graduate community now, still very bonded through what they went through together. And and there's some testimonials and some comments about what it meant for them to go through the Little School of Big Change during all of this. So again, I think it goes without saying, it's called the Little School of Big Change, and we're all changing, for better or worse. There's a lot of change happening, and it's the absolute best time to do this. Okay, Kelly says, how can you slow down rapid thoughts so you can focus on what you need to do while dealing with bipolar? So it's less about, again, it's not on us to slow down anything. It's about seeing how all of this is already working, how life is already working, and how even with racing thoughts, with slow thoughts, with racing thoughts, it's about when we see how a mind works, and that, yes, experience just floods through us at times, and it can feel so overwhelming, and we can get so caught up in it. The more that we explore how it works, and it works the same way for all people, no matter what diagnosis you have, it shows up differently, but thought is the same for you as it is for everyone on earth. Meaning, it shows up, it comes to life, and then it goes away. And it might do that over and over, and it might do that in a very fast, dramatic way. It does for all of us at times in our own way. But it's universal. It's simple. It's simple. So it's about coming to get this really simple understanding of how all experience works, that just helps us feel safer in it. It helps us be less caught up in it and less sidetracked by it. So that, again, when your mind is racing, I mean, I have this experience all the time. I could be starting to worry about something, feel my mind racing, feel my body doing all the stuff. And there's space between that. There's me over here more often than not now saying, whoa, my mind's really busy. I don't jump in it. I mean, I know better than that at this point, and you will too. Like, that's what we do. We don't jump in it and try to slow it down or manage it or push through it. None of that makes sense once we see how it really works. What happens is we get that distance from it. And I know this sounds a little bit vague before we have a feel for this, but I promise you that people get a concrete, solid feel for it that is helpful and practical, and it comes to life for each of us as we explore it more and more. So while it sounds vague in the beginning to kind of talk about having space from our thoughts and what does that mean, and we're so used to give me a strategy and how do I change it or how do I slow it down, just being in this conversation, your mind will slow down. It will. And And as it slows down, you get more and more familiar and comfortable with who you are beyond it. And that helps that much more. So you start to rest in who you are. You know from your feelings, okay, that's nothing I need to worry about, instead of jumping in there so much. And then it, like I said earlier, that's where it starts to just kind of eventually fall away, because we're not in there hanging on it all the time. So I often feel in answering these kinds of questions that I'm giving very unsatisfactory answers, because it is kind of vague in the beginning, but it is, like I said earlier, it's a very consistent, very count onable phenomenon. We are all designed, we know this. I'm not teaching anything brand new. We know it. We've just gotten caught up in the busyness. So once we start to see that for what it is, the busyness just starts to settle down. It wants to anyway. See, our mind does not want to run and race and lead us into crazy stuff. It really doesn't. It really wants to be efficient. It wants to not have to work so hard. So it only, like you'll see this in all kinds of ways in all the little checks and balances that are built into our design. Sometimes we get so caught up that we just feel like we have to, punch something, or just have a good cry, or we just throw our hands up and go to bed for the rest of the day. That's wonderful. That's it. That's our mind hitting this point, and us hitting a point where we're like, I can't manage this. And what do? We get a chance to just let it go, and we wake up feeling different and better. Or, like, and so I'm not saying that's the strategy, is just go to bed, but I want you to kind of notice, everyone, like, there's so much natural safety built into our design. We even things like getting depressed, we've gone so fast, sometimes we go into depression to kind of counterbalance that. Now that's not how we want it to be. We don't want those big cycles, right? But it's just to say that there is a bigger wisdom and intelligence behind everything that runs us. And when we start to see that more, we see how it works, and we get a feel for it, we move with it. Like it just, we get to benefit from it so much more, because we understand it. We see how it's working in that way. Can you clarify? So you say, would this be the same as a mood? Would what be the same? Like our mind racing, or I'll just say, like, as you're clarifying, moods are just fluctuations of energy, and so are thoughts. So is everything. So is all of our experience. It's a fluctuation of energy. Now we're so conditioned to be in our psychology and to be thinking about this mood versus that mood versus this energy and that energy. This energy's too slow and depressed. This one's too frantic, and all of, our mind does this. We don't. Our mind classifies and buckets and categorizes and judges everything, because that's what a mind does. A mind just needs to make sense of things, and so it puts a label on everything. But again, we're gonna zoom out. We're gonna jump in our spaceship when we do this course, and we're gonna see it in a much bigger way. And we see, oh, it's just an energy. And when we see it as just these different fluctuations of energy, there's just not so much to be afraid of. There's just not so much to, like, why would we jump in and try to control a fluctuation of energy? We wouldn't. It's going to just fluctuate away. It's going to change on its own. So it's more about seeing what's already right, what's already working, and that's a lot. So again, Callie, your question, how to deal with angry outbursts and how can you control that? It's not about controlling it. It's about seeing it for what it is, so that it isn't controlling you. And I know maybe I can send you some Ask Amy videos I've done and other things on some of these topics, because again, I understand it's really kind of opposite from everything we've been taught. Like, we have to have a technique, and we're going to control this, and we're going to manage that, and this isn't that. And that's why it works. Honestly, that's why it's different, and it lasts, and it works better than anything I've ever seen, because humans are not so good at controlling our experience. We like to think we are, but we do not rule the universe. There is something so much bigger that's living us perfectly, and we just think there isn't. So we get really caught up in it, and then we try to control it, and it makes it all that much worse. So yes, angry outbursts are not perfect or ideal to us as humans, but they are temporary and they do move and they do self-correct 100% of the time on their own. So what starts to happen more is we just feel this anger welling up and we see it coming out and we just let it do its thing. And how that looks in practical terms is a lot of times, for me anyway, like wanting to go yell at my husband or something, wanting to send that angry email, and the feeling of it shows me, oh no, I'm not seeing clearly. I am not in my right mind. I will regret this. Rather than being hijacked by it, like again, I used to be, and many of us are often, where you just feel the anger and it's just out before you have any say in it. What this understanding does is it kind of slows things down. It's like it's almost like things start to move in slow motion a little bit because there's some space. So you see it come in, you know it's there, but you're in your right mind. You are you, and you know better, and you just get the opportunity to make different choices and do things differently because we're not so like this with our experience. Okay. Thank you guys so much for your questions. They're really, really great. So if you have any more, I think I've I've said a lot. So if you have any more, go ahead and put them in there. Let me just check and see if there's anything else that I had been sent that I wanted to mention. Um, Really briefly, I've spoken to this a lot, but it's a really common question that comes up. Is how is this course different from uh, Ask Amy videos, the Change Well podcast, my books, all of that kind of stuff? I realize I kind of I do a lot of stuff. I put a lot of stuff out there. Sometimes it comes back to bite me, and people say, "No, I don't need any more of you. I get all your stuff all the time for free," which is wonderful. That's why I do it, right? I mean, it goes out far and wide. But this course is very, very, very different than those things in that it is a container. It is a course. It is, like I mentioned, it has that curriculum that walks you through this. It has me and other coaches holding your hand. I see when you're caught up. You come tell me when you're in a blind spot or you're stuck on something, and I coach you through it. Like, you don't get that when you're just at home reading or listening. And I think in particular with this understanding, there's so much that we can get on our own, for sure. But there's also a lot that our mind will try to make stuff up about, and this is probably true of anything, but our mind makes up what it means and how it should be, how we should be feeling and all this. And I've seen many people kind of get tangled in that, like you're listening at home and you have this idea, oh, when I have a feeling for this understanding, my habit shouldn't feel this way, or this should fall away, or I won't feel anxious anymore. And it's not necessarily true. It's our mind trying to fill in the blanks. So just in general, I think that's the beauty of going through a pretty affordable for most people course where you get personal support for 6 solid weeks that we can see when you're getting caught up. I've been doing this for a long time. I can see when you're in a blind spot or your mind made something up that looks true to you, and I'll call you on it. So very, very different than a lot of those little piecemeal things. And those piecemeal things are great. If you can't do the course for whatever reason, keep listening to and watching those things. But just know that this is really different. All right, it looks like we're at the end of the questions. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for your interest in this. I'm so excited to just dive in and start supporting people and see how it goes with this group, because I know from lots of past experience there's gonna be a lot of miracles, a lot of amazing stuff. Uh, we call them miracles. They look and feel like miracles, but they're so predictable. They're just part of our design. So I would love to have you as part of that. Remember, the enrollment does close tomorrow, October 1st at midnight. So get in before then. And if you have any questions at all, send them my way. You can put questions here. I'll be checking the comments here. Send them to support@dramyjohnson.com, and we answer all the questions there. We have a phone number, even a 800-866 phone number, a free toll-free number where you can call and talk with someone about your questions. So lots of ways to make sure that you feel good about this. So I hope to see you in the Little School of Big Change, and thanks again so much for listening. Bye, everyone.